What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we've got a good video here, and we're going to be talking about the best prospects from every country in the UFC. Now, no, I do not have every single country because for some of them, they're bums. So I just couldn't find any prospects. But I've got 20 different countries here. Some of them are going to have multiple prospects. A lot of them are just going to have one. And yeah, if you are from that country, I'm going to tell you who your last hope is at anyone good at MMA, because otherwise it's over for you and your country's cooked. Also, yeah, Canada's not featured because they're all bums. But let's get into it, and we're going to start off with USA. So to start off with USA, I've got Danny Barlow, Bo Nickel, and Peyton Talbot as the three best American prospects right now. Look, are there probably some more? Yeah, but let me know in the comments who are like some really promising prospects that I've forgot here. I think these are the main three, the big three if you would call them. And yeah, they're all undefeated as well. So some of these guys that I'll be calling prospects, they're not all undefeated. A lot of them aren't. But these guys all undefeated in the UFC, of course. 3-0 for both Talbot and Bo Nickel, and then Danny Barlow obviously debuted this year. He's 1-0. All finish wins from all of them. Every single one of their fights has been a finish, I believe. I don't think Danny Barlow got a finish. Bo Nickel finished all his guys, and then Peyton Talbot got all three finishes in his fights too. So yeah, none of these guys have gone to the scorecards in the UFC. Very promising. 28 years old, Danny Barlow, 8-0, very inexperienced, but I think he's a very good striker. He's got a fight coming up too. Bo Nickel, also 28, 6-0. He's like basically debuted in the UFC. He fought a couple cans, and then he just jumped into the UFC. And then Peyton Talbot, he's 25, so in the lower weight classes, look, for the most of this video, I'm not going to include people over 30, but for some of the ones in the upper weight classes, I might, or, if they're looking like they're about to become ranked, but, like, if they're 30 and, 33 at bantamweight and just made their debut, like, I'm not really considering you a prospect. But yeah, Talbot, Bo Nickel, Danny Barlow. For the US, for the Americans, I know some of you guys probably wouldn't consider, you wouldn't really have them representing you. Maybe you'd just have Bo Nickel, but, do your thing. But anyway, those are the US prospects in my opinion. There's some other guys you could include, but I think these are the best three. Let's move on, though, to Brazil. Okay, now, Brazil. There's a lot of them. You're probably like, what the fuck? How many people are there on my screen? Yes, there's 5 prospects from Brazil or 6, so I can't count. But I'll go through them. Felipe Lima, 13-1, 1-0 in the UFC, 26 years old. Vinicius Oliveira, 21-3, 2-0 in the UFC, just beat Ricky Simone, 28 years old. Mauricio Hufi, 10-1, 1-0 in the UFC. His only loss is to like an undefeated guy who's like 13-0. Gene Silva, 13-2. I think I might have forgot to update the record. I think it's 14-2 now, but 3-0 in the UFC. I did update that. He's only 27. Carlos Prates, 19-6, 2-0 in the UFC. He's 30, but he's a welterweight, so, I give him a bit more leniency with the age. And then Jean Matsumoto, 15-0, and then 1-0 in the UFC. He's 24, so, like, if you're looking at who's going to be around for the longest, it's probably these guys like Jean Matsumoto, Felipe Lima. Hoofy's probably going to be around for a while. Gene Silva will be around. They're all going to be around for a while, I reckon. Like, not all of these guys are the Fighting Nerds guys. 3 of them are. Obviously, Hoofy, Gene Silva, Prates, they're all Fighting Nerds guys. And we know that team is 12-0 in the UFC so far. Carlos Prates has a fight coming up with Li Jingliang. So that's something you can be looking forward to if you're looking for a Brazilian prospect to get a win. I do think he's going to beat Li Jingliang. I don't think anyone else here has a fight booked. Obviously, Oliveira just won. Gene Silva just won back-to-back fights. Matsumoto, his debut was earlier in the year against Dan Argueta. He won it with a guillotine. Felipe Lima, he just won as well. He stepped in on short notice against Muhammad Naimov, won by submission. So yeah, all these dudes, very promising, getting finishes a lot of the time. I think Oliveira went to a decision, against Ricky Simone, but I'm pretty sure every single one of these other guys' fights in the UFC has been a finish too. So there you go. And Hoofy obviously fought in May. He smoked Jamie Mullarkey. So yeah, those are the Brazilian prospects to look out for. I can't really include more than that, even if there are. There probably are some other good ones, but I think those are the best 6. Not everyone else not all the other countries going to have this many. But Brazilians, I was doing it and I was just like, and I was just thinking, what the fuck, there's more, and then I just have to keep going back, and I'm like, am I missing someone? But yeah, you've got bantamweights, you've got featherweight, you've got lightweight, You've got a welterweight. Like, you guys are looking good with the Brazilian prospects. I'm not including Braulio. He's not really a prospect anymore. He's ranked. He's top 15. But all these other guys, very promising prospects. Let's move on, though, to the next country. Now we got Russia. And I've only got two people here. Now, I know some of the Dagestani fans probably flipped off in the comments, but feel free to let me know, who did I miss? Who are the actual prospects from Russia? I wouldn't even really classify Umar as a prospect. He's literally got a main event top 5 fight coming up. Once that fight happens, he's no longer a prospect. But until then, he's fought only bums. So I kind of consider prospect someone that has a ceiling that we haven't really seen yet, or someone that they need to be proven, or they have the potential to be really good. And obviously he still would even if he lost. But I think, how old is he? He's 28. I got Shara as well. He's 30. I don't really think Shara's all that, to be honest. But, I have to include them as a country, I guess, just to make sure the Dagestani fans are happy. But let me know, who did I miss? Who else is some Russian fighters that are... I know guys have a lot of good fighters, but who do you have that's actual prospects, new to the UFC, less than 5 fights? Umar has 5 fights. That's the cutoff. Once you've got more than 5 fights, I don't really consider you a prospect. But, yeah, Umar, he's 17-0, 5-0 in the UFC, 28 years old, obviously. He's got definite potential. And then Shara, 13-0, 2-0 in the UFC. He's 30. But again, upper weight classes, you kind of have a bit longer to do your thing. I don't think Shara's going to be all that. His takedown defense is fucking dismal. Has to grab the cage against fucking Anthony Tricoli or some shit like that. Anthony Tricoli, whatever the fuck the guy's name was. Bum. But, yeah, Russia, right now, you don't have many prospects. Look, fair enough, you've got the lightweight champion, and you've got some other good top 5 fighters. You've got Evlov, Volkov, Pavlovich, you got these guys. But you don't have that many prospects, to be honest. Let's move on, though, to the next country. Next up, we've got the Cartel Gang. We've got Manuel Torres, Raul Rosas, Daniel Zellhuber, and then Ronaldo Rodriguez. Yeah, the Cartel. We got 29-year-old Torres, 3-0 in the UFC, all finishes. This dude's very promising. Raul Rosas, 3-1. But the reason why, he's coming up on those 5 fights, to be honest. But the reason why I've got him in here is because he's 19. I think, you're a prospect at that point. Unless he loses, 2 or 3 in a row, and it's just clear that he really ain't all that. I don't think, right now, obviously, you're not giving him a top 15 guy. This guy lost to Christian Rodriguez. We just saw how Rodriguez did it against Arosa. But Raul Rosas, as a 19-year-old, you just can't say they're not a prospect. He shows good grappling. Striking needs some work. Cardio needs some work, but his grappling's sick. Daniel Zellhuber, really good striker. 15-1, 3-1 in the UFC. He lost his debut to Trey Ogden. I think he just got grappled, I assume. That was a while ago. But he's 25 again, at lightweight even. So he's got a lot of time. He's got a good 5 years until he hits his prime. And then Ronaldo Rodriguez, 25 years old as well, at flyweight. Just made his debut. Do I think he's amazing and elite? No, but a 25-year-old who's 1-0 in the UFC, 2 losses outside of that were a while ago. I got to consider you a prospect. So yeah, these are the Mexican hopes. And that's actually good because we need some more Mexican top fighters, because it seems Dana is really high on doing these Mexican events, these Sphere events, going to Mexico, all of that. So we need more than just Yair Rodriguez, Brandon Moreno, and Alexa Grasso. I mean, I know they got Eldana as well, but that's the 4 Mexican fighters. We need some more good ones at the top of the division, so then at least it can cause a bit more excitement. But I think a lot of these guys have fights coming up. I assume they're all going to be fighting on the Sphere card, I'd imagine. But yeah, let's move on though to the next country. Next up, we've got England/Ireland. Look, Mick Parkin. Is Mick Parkin a prospect? I'm not sure. But he's undefeated. He's 9-0 overall, 3-0 in the UFC, 28 years old. At 28 at heavyweight, this guy's got a good 6-7 years left until he just hits vet status and then, starts taking those crafty Apex decisions. But, he's already doing it. He's already fighting in the Apex all the time. He fought once, I think, in England. He's fighting there again. Should get the win. But yeah, Mick Parkin, that's your number 1 prospect, guys. Okay, this next one, look, is very debatable. I know a lot of English people would say this guy is not an English prospect. But I'm going to count him. Farid Basharat, he fights out of England. He fights out of Leon's gym. I'm pretty sure. He's undefeated as well. 26-2 at bantamweight. So definite promise there with Farid Basharat. Callan Loughran, he did lose his debut to Taylor Lapulus, but Lapulus is very good. I'm not going to have him in this video because he's fought too many times. But Lapulus is very good, and so I don't really rate Like, I don't really fault you that much for that loss. He's a good grappler, real fucking midget, little manlet type of guy. Just a real heavy wrestler, big strong dude. 9-1, 1-1 in the UFC. Obviously, doesn't look the best, but his loss was to a very good fighter. And Taylor Lapilus just tuned up Cody Stamann. So that loss ain't aged that badly. Lapilus is a very good fighter. He did lose to Basharat, but again, Basharat is very good. And then the last one, obviously, is Christian Leroy Duncan. He's got a loss. He lost to Arman Petrosian. Not the best look, but this dude has the potential to be just a problem. His size is crazy. He's going to have a reach advantage over a lot of people. He just needs to... Because in his debut... Well, I don't think it was his debut, but the fight with Petrosian that he lost, he was doing retarded shit. He was just only trying to kick. It's like, bro, you have a 6-inch reach advantage. Why are you not just jabbing this guy in the face? Also, good grappling too. He's just going to be stronger than a lot of guys. So, Christian Leroy Duncan, definite prospect too. So, yeah, England, Ireland, I guess, too. Those are your prospects. Let's move on, though, to the next country. Next up, we got Australia / New Zealand. We got Kevin Jessett, Tom Nolan, and then Stuart Nickel, who you might not know, but he has a fight booked for the Australia card. He's making his debut, so obviously I don't have his UFC record there, but he's undefeated, coming off the regional scene in Australia. Very good fighter, lots of finishes. Pick him in his next fight, that's all I'll say. But then Kevin Jessett, he's 31, so he's reaching that cutoff point, but at welterweight, it's not too big of a deal. He's saying I checked his social media the other day, he's saying he's going to be fighting in Paris, apparently. He is of French descent, but he fights out of city kickboxing and shit in New Zealand. A lot of them speak very highly of him. Great striker. Tuned up Song Kanan in his last fight and didn't get dropped like Ian Gary. So, there you go. You can officially hear it here. He's better than Ian Gary. But no, he's very good though. Very good striker. And he's got grappling too. But then Tom Nolan, look, he's looking very unproven. He's looking very mid, to say the least. Look, he won his last fight by TKO in the first, but he got cracked a little bit. He got dropped and finished in his first fight. But I still think at 24 at lightweight, the frame he has, fill out a little bit, become a bit bigger, use your range properly, stop fucking throwing kicks and shit, and, stop throwing crosses when the person is, in your face. Throw hooks or, throw elbows or something, throw knees. Use your range effectively. This guy's, he's the white Jalen Turner. He's the Jalen Turner that Doble would lose to, if you know what I'm saying. But then obviously Stuart Nickel too, I mentioned, 29. He's a flyweight, so 29, not great. But he is undefeated, and I think he'll win his debut and look pretty good. So yeah, Australia, New Zealand, those are our prospects. Look, they're not great, to be honest. I was going to put Jenkins, but, he lost to Jamal Emmers, in my opinion. Hasn't looked spectacular. He's good, and he's also, I think he's 30 or something too. Couple other ones, I guess, we have, but not really. Urseg's got less than 5 fights in the UFC, so yeah, he's a prospect, We got the best flyweight in the world as a prospect. But anyway, let's move on to the next country. Next up, we've got Japan, and I've got 2 prospects for Japan, Rei Saruya and Rinya Nakamura. Now, obviously, Taira's not really a prospect anymore. He's a top 10 flyweight. But Rinya Nakamura, I think he's 29, 28, whatever. Great wrestler, really good grappling. Same with Saruya. A lot of these Japanese guys are coming in with these Olympic wrestling backgrounds or national wrestling backgrounds. So yeah, a lot of them are very good grapplers. Striking does need some work. Rinya's got heavy power. Rei Saruya is 22 at flyweight. I know Van just lost. He's going to be in this video, I don't care. But I know Van just lost, but these young guys like Taira, Makayev, Saruya, Van, all under 25 years old at flyweight, these guys are going to be in the top 10 for sure when they're older. Saruya, I'm confident in. Van, I'm still confident in. I don't care. And then Nakamura as well. I think he got injured in his last fight. Look, he hasn't really been getting the finishes. A lot of these grapplers, Taira's getting a lot of finishes, but Saruya obviously went to decision in his debut. Hernandez is pretty tricky though. And then Rinya Nakamura, I think his jiu-jitsu is not spectacular. It's just really good wrestling and top control. You don't really get up from this dude. He just holds you down and kind of just beats you up on the ground and threatens submissions. But his offensive jiu-jitsu ain't the best. So he's not a big finisher, but before the UFC, he was getting a bunch of finishes. Got a KO to win his road to UFC finale. But yeah, both of these guys very solid fighters. So those are the Japanese prospects to look out for. But let's move on to the next country. Now we move on to just the individual ones. These are all one fighter per country. Umar Sy, France. He's your best prospect right now. BSD's not really a prospect anymore. I can't consider Lapilus a prospect. William Gomi, not really a prospect. But Umar Sy is undefeated, really good grappler. And that's crazy to say, a French person that's good at grappling. There's not a lot of them, to be honest. Like, BSD's pretty solid at grappling. But apart from that, and he's a pretty good striker too. He's 10-0, undefeated. He's fighting Da Woon Jung in Paris, who's a guy just outside the rankings. That's like a guy that usually gets you a top 15 opponent. He's pretty young too. He's under 30, and also at light heavyweight, you got a bit more time. So yeah, Umar Sy, that's the French prospect again. You know, France prospect, or French prospects, aka Africa FC. But anyway, let's move on though to the next country. Next up, we got Josh Van. I don't care that he just lost by KO to Charles Johnson, who never KOs anyone. I don't care. He was doing well before that, and he's 22. He just got a bit dumb. He was winning that fight when Van is on the front foot and pressuring and keeping his guard up and not exchanging like a retard. Then he does really well. But, you know, he's 22. He's young. He's stupid. He's like, oh, look at me, I'm going to engage with this guy because he aggressively swung at me, so I'm going to follow back. It's like, no, don't do that. But Van is still very good. He's 22. He's not hitting his prime for like fucking 8 years. He's got a lot of time to work. I just hope the UFC doesn't do him like an Edmund Shabazian and just give him fights that he's just going to lose and then turn him around too quickly and he can never get momentum going. So hopefully take time off. I don't want to see him for the rest of this year after that KO. It was pretty bad KO. So Van, I still am very high on. I still think he's a very good striker, but it needs to bulk up a little bit. Maybe work on some grappling, mix in some takedowns in your game as well. His takedown defense is crazy good though, so that's why I'm actually pretty confident he beats a lot of the wrestlers in the division. But I'm just worried about these guys that are just bigger and rangier than him, like an Urseg, Charles Johnson, a lot of these guys. Like, I still think he smokes Matt Schnell. I still think he beats a lot of these guys, but there's dudes with power that can kind of just force you to engage with them. That's the ones I worry about. Also the guys that have the range advantage, like a Roy Val. But Royval can't fucking hurt anyone. Anyway, let's move on though to the next country. Next up for Tajikistan, Nurullo Aliyev. 9-0, 1-0 in the UFC. I don't know where this guy's been. I should have put him on my fighter most active / inactive tier list, because this dude has not fought since February of last year against Rafael Alves. I think he might have actually popped for something and he's just doing like, genuinely I think that's the case. I think he might have popped for something and then he's doing like a non-publicly announced suspension, because he was booked to fight, or maybe he's just injured, because he was booked to fight Matej Rebecki in November last year. He pulled out of that fight. Rebecki ended up having to smoke Roosevelt Roberts, the poor dude. And he hasn't been booked since. He hasn't fought since, obviously. So where the fuck is Nurullo Aliyev? I don't know. This guy, again, might be dead. But anyway, he's a great prospect, undefeated. And Rafael Alves is no joke, bro. Alves was given a scrap to Drew Dober. This dude pretty much took him down and dominated him for 3 rounds. I mean, it was a close-ish fight, but he pretty clearly won. He got a point taken because he did bite the guy's finger, which is interesting. But we got Mike Tyson, but a grappler. Anyway, let's move on though to the next country. Next up, South Korea. We've got Hyung-Sung Park in the flyweight division, 28 years old, so approaching his prime. Great boxing, good striking. Do I think good submissions as well? Do I think this guy's going to be a future champ? No, but South Korea is your best hope. Since fucking Zombie left, he's probably going to be your best fighter, to be honest. I mean, Hyung-Sung Park's good, but he's not a prospect at this stage. Some of these your best chance is going to be some more of these road to UFC guys. So yeah, get cooking, get some of these road to UFC guys in the UFC. Maybe you can have some more prospects, but for now, Hyung-Sung Park is your best hope. Let's move on though to another country. Next up, we've got Ecuador. Michael Morales, 25-year-old welterweight, undefeated, 16-0, 4-0 in the UFC. Apparently he's fighting Magny. That still somehow hasn't been confirmed. Maybe it's happening though. But if it is, I think he'll probably win that. Hopefully he don't turn out like Mike Malott, who could have been in this video if he'd won that fight, but at that point he probably wouldn't be a prospect. But anyway, Morales, he's about to hit that 5-fight mark, so he's about to be disqualified from being considered a prospect. But right now, he's still outside the rankings, still undefeated. Good striking. Look, he was getting some finishes early. His last 2 fights have been decisions, but I still think he's very good. And welterweight, a lot of the welterweight division isn't all that. And also, 25, he's going to improve. So yeah. Let's move on then to the next country. Next up, we've got the caveman himself, Maitabek Orolbai. Somehow he's 26 years old. I do not believe him. That's like when you put on the disguise to like try and get into the club and act like you like make yourself look older than you are. That's what Orolbai has done here. You're not fooling anyone, buddy. Like, you're not 26 years old. But he's done the reverse of it. I don't know. He already looks older. You don't need to do any disguising, buddy. But Orolbai, he's really good. Beat Uros Medic, smoked him. Medic is very good too. And then beat Elvis Brenner, which is a good win. And he's 26. Again, don't believe it. I think he's 50. But 50 years old for these guys, they're cavemen. They probably live till like 200. Anyway, let's move on to the next fighter. Next up for China, plus 5,000 social credit, we've got Mingyang Zhang, who is 25 years old. This dude has never won a fight by decision. He has gone to a decision once. And look, you might look at his record and see some losses and it looks a bit ugly. And you go back and they're probably to some not great opponents on the regional scene. But this dude was 25. His last loss was in 2019 when he was 20 years old. Most of his losses came when he was like 19, 18. So this dude was losing when he was basically a teenager. Probably was not just an absolute unit who was KOing people. Now, this guy's sleeping, motherfuckers. Slept Brenton Haberio. He's looking really good. So, Mingyang Zhang, China's best prospect. They've got some good fighters in the women's divisions. They got Song Yadong, but apart from that, they're not doing too great. Get all the kids out of chess, bro. Chess is boring. Get them over to MMA. Anyway, let's move on to the next fighter or next country. Next up for Peru, Daniel Marcos. Now, he is 31. So that is like a bit concerning, but he's looking better every time. He doesn't really fight he fights like a 31-year-old. Like, he fights like a pretty seasoned veteran. He's got great striking. Watch his last fight with John Castaneda. He looked great. He's undefeated. Arguably lost to David Grant, but David Grant's very good. And look, he's early in his career. So sometimes you see, 31, you're losing. That's no good. But it's how early you are in the career. He's still improving. He's not peaking yet. I think he should get a ranked opponent next. He might not. But if the UFC do him right, he's a good prospect for Peru. And they've got a lot of these South American guys coming up. So if they can build them up right, get them some good wins, they can definitely do like a South America show, because they've done Brazil, but they could do somewhere else. They could do an Ecuador with Cheeto headlining, Morales is the co-main. They can do an Argentina card. They've done those before, but they just got to get some of these guys at the top of the sport. Anyway, let's move on to another country. Another South American prospect, we've got Esteban Ribovic. He's 28 years old. He has a loss to Loic Rajdabov, but Rajdabov is a heavy grappler. He took him down a whole bunch. And Esteban's cardio is actually really good, because he pushed late in that fight and then beat him up in the third. And I thought there was an argument he could have won that, but it is what it is. But since then, he won against Camarilla Kirk by decision. Heavy output in the first, almost had him finished. But then he just KO'd McKinney with a head kick. This dude's improving pretty rapidly. Do I think he's going to be a top 5, top 10 guy? Probably not, but still, he's definitely a guy to keep your eye on. I think he's fighting in the Sphere next. Not booked, but likely. So yeah, keep an eye on him. Let's move on though to another country. Next up, we're filling the gender equality portion of the video. Josephine Knudsen for Sweden, because apart from Gustafsson and fucking Hamza, this country has never had anyone good. Maybe Hermansson's from Sweden, I'm not sure. But Josephine Knudsen, 2 fights in the UFC. She actually is a pretty good female fighter to watch. She trains with, I think, Graham and shit. You'll see it in her fights. Watch her last fight in the UFC. The first round, she did get taken down a bit. She did look a bit mid as the fight went on, but her striking is actually really good to watch as a female fighter. She's got fuck all power though. She can't finish. She's actually Bilal, but a striker version. She's Bilal, but you upped the striking stats instead of the grappling stats, but she's got no power, cannot finish anyone, but she's a very good fighter. Let's move on though to another country. Next up, Belgium. We've got Balaji Oki again, Africa FC coming in clutch. But Balaji Oki, very solid fighter. Look, his debut wasn't the most impressive thing. He won by decision, but he's got a lot of finishes on his record. He had a really nice performance on the Contender Series. Very solid fighter. Keep an eye on him too. Another fighter from another country is this dude, this Mongolian Genghis Khan, fucking great-great-great-grandson. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Notlaway Tulgumburi, some shit like that. It just sounds like if you just try and put all the letters of the alphabet together and say it at the same time. That's what this guy's name is. Anyway, he's undefeated. He was meant to fight Andre Lima, and it was actually crazy because Andre Lima was meant to fight Hyung-Sung Park, both undefeated guys. Andre Lima is another guy you could put on there from Brazil, but I just didn't have room. But then he was meant to fight Hyung-Sung Park. Park pulled out. Then he was meant to fight this guy, so it was going to be another undefeated matchup. Then he pulled out. Obviously, then he ended up getting a different fight. But this dude, Tulgumburi or some shit, he's a very good fighter. I actually watched his Road to UFC fight when I was going to do the predictions for that card, and then he pulled out, obviously. But he's very solid, so keep an eye on him when he inevitably makes his UFC debut, because he won Road to UFC, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, he should make his UFC debut pretty soon, hopefully. Maybe they send him back and make him do like Contender Series, but I doubt it. He should be in the UFC. From Mongolia as well, by the way. So we literally got Genghis Khan's fucking spawn in the... We've got a Genghis Khan relative in the UFC. But let's move on, though, to the final country. Now, I know you guys have been waiting for the humor portion of the video. You know, normally I always carry a nice light-hearted tone and make some jokes and do some shitty impressions. But... for this one, I haven't, because I'm serious business. So I'm looking at prospects, I'm scouting the prospects, but yeah, we'll have a laugh here. Angel Jubilee. Why do you redeem, sir? Do not redeem, sir. Anyway, we've got the 7-Eleven enthusiast, Angel Jubilee, part-time fighter, full-time tech support officer. With an astonishing record of 7-11. No, Angel Jubilee, look, you lost to Mike Breeden, buddy. You can't be not made fun of. I don't know when this guy's fighting again. He fought in October. Maybe he just quit the sport and went full-time in the tech support labs. But, yeah, Angel Jubilee, it's been a tough road for India's best hope. You know, there was some reporter at the press conference asking, Dana, when are we going to go to India? It's like, who else do you have? You have Angel Jubilee, now you have Pooja Tomar. I should have put her in here too. But they should date, and then they'll have a kid, and the kid will somehow be good at MMA. You know how sometimes when there's like two really athletic parents, they have a kid, and then the kid's like absolute super athlete, but then sometimes the kid's an absolute bum. But then I reckon the reverse applies. You get two absolute athletic flops, you make them have a kid could either just turn into the biggest fucking abomination ever, or could be just an absolute weapon. Like nighttime scamming pensioners, daytime rip it up guns in the gym. Like that's what they're looking at. But I'm going to end this video before I get another guidelines strike and get banned for 2 weeks. Anyway, I hope you like this. Thanks for watching screen, by the way. Like the video, or else you have the talent of Indian MMA. Subscribe, or else you will get scam called by Angel Jubilee. Also, leave a comment which fighters or countries I missed. I'm sure there are some that I did, but let me know nicely in the comments, please, guys. This is a family-friendly channel, so no swearing. But also, shout out to my guy, Right Lane MMA. If you made it this far in the video, I should have shouted him out at the start, get some more attention to him. But this dude, absolute legend, made a clip channel of me. I'll show it up on the screen right now. Yeah, he did me dirty with this thumbnail. I'm not going to talk to you about this. You can go watch it if you want. But yeah, he made a clip channel. So I've officially made it in the game, because as a channel with less than 9,000 subs, I somehow have a clip channel. So yeah, subscribe to my boy Right Lane MMA. I'll drop the link in the description or in the comments, whatever. But yeah, peace out, guys. See ya.